I just want to welcome everyone to Elevate with Einstein, AI for your customer engagement. On behalf of Jolt Consulting Group, we're very happy that you joined us today. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping announcements. All participants are in listen-only mode. That means we can't hear you speak to us, but you still can communicate with us via the chat or questions feature in your control panel. Please do feel free to submit your questions at any time. If it's relevant and we have the opportunity, we can answer them on the spot. There will also be a dedicated Q&A at the end of this broadcast where we can address any questions we didn't get to. And if for some reason we didn't get to it at all, you can expect a response via email. At the close of the webinar, you should receive a quick exit survey. We do ask that you participate in that, as it will help give us a little feedback on how we did today and help guide future webinars. And also, don't worry if you have to leave early or you missed something. This webinar is going to be recorded, and you should receive a copy of the recording via email in the next few days. Just in case you're new to this platform, if you need to communicate with us via the chat or the questions feature, you can click on the orange arrow, and that'll expand your control panel, and that way you can type in the chat box and we'll see what you have to ask. I'll quickly go over today's agenda. We'll do a very brief team introduction, then go over some industry trends, and then get to the much awaited Einstein for Service demo. And at the end, we'll have, as I mentioned, a dedicated Q&A. My name is Christina Galenti. I'm the Success Manager here with Jolt Consulting Group, and I'm very excited to be here today. I'm calling in from southern Vermont, just outside of Stratton Mountain. And with me, I have my esteemed colleagues, Jorge and Chris.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Jorge Estrada. I am the Director of Business Development here at Jolt Consulting Group. I'm calling in from Marblehead, Massachusetts.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Kosmala. I'm part of the delivery team at Jolt Consulting Group. I am a 9-time Salesforce certified consultant, including Einstein Analytics and Discovery. And I am calling in today from just outside of Philadelphia. So excited to be here.
All right, I'll take over, Christina. So before we begin going into the demonstration, I'd like for the participants to take a quick poll regarding customer service and some of the priorities that you have going on. So what I'd like for you to do is to select the top 2 service priorities for 2020. It could be for 2021 as well. I understand that the year's well past half of it. So if you could, I'd select all that apply as we're going through the poll, and we'll take a minute or two to give everybody a chance to fill, and we'll review the results. So this is really interesting. So the reason I included these 4 different options is because these are some of the top service priorities for the best performing customer service organizations in the country. And the sort of pairing those up with challenges, you're always going to have to keep up with the changing customer expectations, but you may have ineffective or inefficient processes, which the technology will showcase today will help solve. Insufficient tools for your reps to be as effective as possible. And some of the constraints that you'll see are all tied together. So the idea for today is to leverage technology to get you to a point where these customer service reps have what they need and they're able to serve your clients. Your clients get better client experience, and you increase your bottom line revenue, turning your customer service organization from a cost to a revenue generating organization. Before we go into the meat of this, I do want to talk a little bit about Jolt and our perspective. So Jolt is a consulting company that has partnered with Salesforce. So today you'll get a demonstration for Einstein for Service, which is one of the Salesforce products. But really our goal is to improve the client experience through both process and technology. So about a third of our revenue comes from management consulting. And that could mean, if you're thinking about this and you don't know where to start, having an assessment of your organization done to see where the gaps are and try to fill those in via some recommendation, some road mapping in terms of technologies that you will need to leverage as you go on and you try to ascend the curve into the best performing customer service organization that you'd like to be. On the flip side, technology, we regularly implement technologies to help clients do what I just mentioned. Salesforce is our bread and butter here, and the product that we're showcasing in terms of artificial intelligence is meant to not only get your customer service organization up to speed, but also make the lives of both your clients, your customers better, and the lives of your reps. As they're performing less and less mundane tasks, they're able to perform tasks that they actually enjoy doing. You have better retention when it comes to employees, and a better functioning customer service organization. So today I'm going to talk about some of the takeaways. So I mentioned some of the challenges, and artificial intelligence, which is what this product Einstein for Service is one of the key areas that's taking and that's making an impact for customer service organizations. When you look at the best performing customer service organizations and the lowest performing customer service organizations, it's no wonder that the high performing ones are using artificial intelligence 3 times, or they're more likely to use it 3 times. So when it comes down to the nitty gritty and what that means for your org, that means that your agents are prioritizing their work, and they're seeing reduced volumes when it comes to emails and calls that could be easily automated and routed, as you'll see with the product today. So just a funny story that happened to me. I was looking to get better internet service, and as I did some background investigation, I came to the realization that I needed to upgrade my modem and router in order to get that high speed that I needed to do my work. So I ended up going into a chat for my service provider. I talked to several reps, and I kept sort of getting turned around and talking to different people. I spent some time on the phone. And really all I wanted to do is to get someone out here to replace my router, purchase a router from them, and get that internet service that I needed to get. So after 5 hours of frustration or so, I became so infuriated with the process that I ended up switching providers on the spot. And if you really think about that and what that means for your organization, that's lost revenue that could have been easily solved by automating some of the tasks that you'll see here today in the demonstration. And really, the best takeaway that I could persuade you to look at today is how to use this technology to provide a better client experience through automation of these repetitive mundane tasks that are taking up the time of your customer service reps. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris for the demonstration of Einstein for Service.
Great. Thank you very much, Jorge. Appreciate that introduction. Before we get started and really dive into the demonstration, wanted to once again take the temperature of our audience here today. And the first question I have is just a simple, is your organization using any Salesforce Einstein features in your current Salesforce environment? So yes or no. Give people another few seconds if you're using Salesforce Einstein features or not in your current Salesforce org. All right. Looks like most people are not using Salesforce Einstein features, so that's great. We're happy to introduce some new features and functions in your Salesforce org today. And for those of you who are, hopefully this expands your current knowledge base in terms of what types of things you could be doing with Einstein. So as a follow-up question, if you are currently utilizing Salesforce Einstein features, which ones of the ones we presented below are you using? And for those of you who are not currently using Salesforce Einstein, which one of these products would you use just based on ones that you've heard the most about or the ones maybe you're already interested in? We have Einstein Search, which is user-specific results whenever someone enters a search term into your global search bar. There's Einstein Next Best Action, which prompts the user to take a specific action or do something based on the scenario in which they're in. Einstein Prediction Builder, which will allow you to look into the future and based on the context of the record you're looking at, what's likely to happen. Einstein Discovery, which is Salesforce's powerful analytics and reports and dashboards feature. And then finally, Einstein Opportunity Scoring, where it will rank and categorize your sales pipeline and determine which deals are the most likely to close. So we'll give everybody a few more seconds to think about either which ones you're using, or if you're not using Salesforce Einstein, which ones you've maybe heard the most about or are already interested in. All right. Looks like a lot of people are either using or interested in Einstein Next Best Action. That's one of the items we're going to talk about today. It definitely gets a lot of publicity and promotion by Salesforce at Salesforce events. The other one, Einstein Search, it's very interesting. That's actually a relatively new feature that Salesforce launched within the last couple of releases and really does showcase the power of providing individual search results so people can get the information relevant to them faster. So that's fantastic that people are either using or are interested in Einstein Search. So our demonstration today will talk about a couple of specific Einstein for Service features. So to take a step back, Einstein is very powerful and certainly has a lot of value to different organizations. But the most common feedback I know that I've heard as a Salesforce consultant is that Einstein can be complex to the point of being intimidating. And for example, there are so many Einstein products that are out there in addition to the ones that we even just showed you. So besides search and opportunity scoring, there's Einstein bots, Einstein email and calendar, Einstein vision, Einstein language, Einstein activity capture, and people really just don't know where they should get started. And at times it could be just flat out intimidating for a lot of people who aren't very familiar. So what we'll do today is we'll talk through a relatively simple scenario of a customer calling in to customer service and the customer service agent creating a case. And based on the data and the context of the case, we'll talk about Einstein Next Best Action, which will prompt the user to do something based on the conditions of the case. And we'll also talk about Einstein Prediction Builder, where Salesforce Einstein will provide a prediction or a score based on the likelihood that a given outcome is going to occur. So in our example, we'll talk about when we open a case, are we going to hit the response time that's in our service level agreement? So today we'll really show how these two Einstein features can guide customer service in this example scenario to not only deliver good on-time service, but also achieve your business goals, whether they be service goals or even sales goals or marketing goals. And with that, I will go ahead and I will share my screen. All right, can everyone see my screen?
I can, yep.
Great. So We've chosen Einstein Next Best Action and Einstein Prediction Builder because these are really the best jumping off points, especially for those of you who are not currently using any Salesforce Einstein features. And the reason that they're great jumping off points is that they're very quick wins. And by that, I mean they're available in all Salesforce orgs. So whether you have Salesforce Essentials all the way up to Salesforce Unlimited, regardless of the edition that you have, you already have these features somewhere in your org. And just being able to bring them out and really leverage the power of Salesforce Einstein, you'll be able to, get those immediate results and some of those quick wins of some of the benefits that we're going to show you today. So as I mentioned, we'll start with next best action, which shows what next steps should be taken by an end user. And again, this could be an end user internally, or it could be an external user within a community given a specific scenario. So next best action will prompt a user to do something on different records, even if those records might seem very similar. One small difference between the two records can actually give two different recommendations for actions that the end user should take based on the context of that record. So what you're looking at here is our case for the Bennett Company, and our customer, Kate, called in, and we have created this case that is linked to a specific asset that her company has. And for those of you who don't use assets, assets are the products that are purchased by your customer. So this might be a specific type of machine or a subscription or whatever other product that you might have. You can link to that account, and then you can create cases that are specific to that asset. So Kate is having an issue with the asset or the product that her company has purchased. And normally a customer service agent, when they create a case, would then need to seek various information and determine the steps that they should take themselves in terms of what's the best way to solve this case for the customer. So in this case, we have a field that we've created on a case. It's just called the asset install date, which is tied back to the asset. And we've programmed Einstein to look at the asset install date as the basis for making some of his recommendations. So Einstein takes a look at this case and sees that the install date was back in 2010. So this asset is about 10 years old. So Einstein thinks to himself that this is an older model, probably needs to get replaced, maybe is being retired soon, and the customer should upgrade. So Einstein says, in this scenario specific to this case, you should offer to send a quote to replace an older model. So what we're trying to get the customer service agent to do is to get them to upgrade their model because this product is so old. So in this case, we'll click one button. I can click send new quote, and Einstein in the background just did a lot of different things. First, Einstein created an opportunity on this account to upgrade their product. Einstein also emailed our contact to recap the conversation we just had with information about the new asset that we can provide to her. Einstein also sent a different email to the sales rep that is associated with this account to bring them up to speed as far as what they called in for and what next steps they need to take to close the deal. And finally, it also added Kate to a specific campaign within Salesforce that we're going to use later for marketing purposes. So to give you an example of what that opportunity looks like, on this screen, I have the opportunities related list for the Bennett Company. And if I refresh this, we now see that we have an asset upgrade opportunity that was created from our next best action. Einstein was also able to pre-populate our opportunity based on relevant data from the specific case. We've even said that our lead source, it came from next best action. We've added this opportunity to that campaign that I just mentioned. And we also added a product to that opportunity with the correct price and price book, again, based on the account or the product or any other information that we want to feed Einstein. So in this case, we were able to automate all of those different tasks with the click of a button, in addition to taking the burden off the customer service rep with trying to figure out what are the different types of things that they should be doing each day. So in this case, I should also mention that next best action doesn't simply work with just case. It can work with any standard or custom object. The most common use cases I've seen are on leads, opportunities, and cases in terms of what the end user should be doing next. We've also done a handful of these types of projects where Next Best Action is working on custom objects as well. So you do have that opportunity there. In this screen, you're seeing a very similar case with the exception that it's a newer asset. So in this case, this asset is only about 3 years old. So if we have Einstein looking at the asset install date first and seeing that it's only about 3 years old, well, it's probably not time to replace it. But if we are having issues, we should send a technician out to Kate's office to take a look and see if our technician can troubleshoot what's happening. So again, Einstein says, well, we don't need to send them a quote, but in this case, we do need to schedule a site visit by a technician. So I can say, yes, I want to schedule a site visit by a technician. Our Einstein knows that the offer was accepted. And as you see on my screen now, for those of you who are using field service, and you're probably familiar with the work order and service appointment objects and how field service lightning works, it did create the work order, which can then be scheduled through your normal scheduling process. So not only were we able to know that we need to send a technician out to Kate's office, but we then created all of the relevant records for us. So in the case of Jorge, when he just told the story about needing a new router, we could have scheduled a work order and a service appointment for a technician to go and replace Jorge's router. We could have created an order on his account for that new router and created an invoice to make sure that our finance staff bills Jorge for that new router. And we also, excuse me, could have added a required product on the work order so that when the technician sees that he's assigned to that work order, he knows that he needs to have the correct make and model of the router when he shows up at Jorge's home to install that new router. So in this case, our asset was a little newer. It's not time to replace it, but it needs some service. Again, we took the burden off the customer service rep and we used Next Best Action to automate a lot of the tasks that our customer service rep would normally have to do. So finally, I have a third case here, which again is very similar to the first two, except the asset is nearly brand new. And in this case, it's less than a year old. So in our situation, we might want to say that your 1 year is almost up. If you're having an issue, can we talk to you about offering an extended warranty? So if our customers always get a 1 year warranty, then we know that her 1 year warranty for the specific asset is almost up. Einstein in this case says, you know what, you should offer Kate 10% off an extended warranty for being a customer. And again, we can have different discount levels for different customers based on various attributes of the account, the contact, or the specific asset or product itself. But one question I commonly get is, what does reporting look like? You know, as I've shown, being able to create all of these records and leave a trail is one of the benefits of Next Best Action. Next Best Action can also prompt your users to ask for additional data points that make your reporting easier. So in your case as a manager, you may want to know, okay, what percentage of people are taking the offer for 10% off an extended warranty? But for the people who aren't, not only do we want to know how many people those are, but we also want to know why they aren't. So if I say in this case that Kate did not want the extended warranty, it then brings up a screen that says, please select a reason for declining. Was it she didn't like the cost of the extended warranty? She's unhappy with the customer service. Maybe she's buying a new product from us or from a competitor. And if I click other, then it also asks me to input the reason that Kate didn't want our extended warranty today. So again, all of that data now becomes reportable, and Einstein knows that this offer was rejected. One of the great things I like about Next Best Action is that it can limit the number of offers either by time. So if Kate calls back tomorrow with a similar question, we know that she didn't want the extended warranty today, so we probably shouldn't ask her tomorrow if she wants it. It can also limit it by the number of times we've made a specific offer to somebody. So if you could say, you know what, over the course of Kate's business relationship with us, we're going to ask her 3 times to purchase an extended warranty, regardless of when, how far spaced out those are. If she rejects all 3 of them, we never offer it to her again. So that really gives us the power of Einstein to really know when and where you should be offering various discounts or upsell or cross-sell opportunities to your existing customers. So that's next best action in a simple case of a customer calling customer service and being able to get the information and the service that they really need, and also for you to be able to track what are your business goals in terms of service and sales, upsells, cross-sells, marketing goals, anything like that that can be used within next best action. So with that, I'm going to shift gears a little bit to process builder. To prediction builder. And prediction builder is something that can allow your team to know what's likely to happen given a scenario. So in our specific scenario, we want to know if when we create a case, are we going to meet the response time for our service level agreement? Are we closing cases in the amount of time that we said we should? So in this specific case, we have Kate calling back about a specific asset with, it looks like on her machine, the hemulator valve is not closing. So we need to figure out why it's not closing and it's causing a problem with what's happening. So again, based on the data in the case and any data that's related to the case, such as, accounts or contacts, assets, anything like that, Einstein will create a score based on how likely this is to close within the service level agreement response time, given the attributes of the case. So for example, Einstein thinks that this doesn't have a great chance of closing on time, only 26%. And he says that because the type is mechanical, those typically don't get responded to in a specific amount of time. So he thinks that in this case, only 26% of all cases that look like this will close on time. And Einstein, as the basis of this prediction, is using all of the other case records within our organization. So cases that do close on time within the SLA agreement time and cases that don't close. What do the cases that close have in common? What do those look like? Those that don't close, what do those typically look like? So then when Einstein is presented with a new case, he's able to present a score based on what he thinks is going to happen. If I go to another case here that's almost identical, except I changed the priority to high, even though the type is still mechanical, we've jumped from 26% to 49% in terms of the likelihood that this case is going to close on time. So we've almost doubled our odds just because we've changed one field. Maybe we have a different process that high priority cases are routed a different way, and we can actually start asking those types of questions and really dig deeper into why we either are or are not hitting our service level agreement times with Einstein prediction. So some common examples of Einstein prediction builder. Again, this can be used on just about any Salesforce object, standard or custom. So we see common use cases like, what's the likelihood that an invoice is going to be paid late? Or how many days late will that invoice be paid? What is the likelihood of an opportunity closing? What are the odds that that opportunity is going to be above or below a specific dollar threshold? We can even do things like what's the likelihood that this lead or contact is likely to engage with our email or our customer journey. So one of the best things about Next Best Action and Prediction Builder is that they do both integrate across many Salesforce products. So I did mention the one item in Next Best Action where it worked with Field Service Lightning to create a work order and a service appointment. Maybe in that same situation, if things were different, Einstein could have recommended that we send Kate a knowledge article and walk her through it to help her troubleshoot her machine on her own. We could have use cases where the customer service agent creates a new opportunity and a quote, and that kicks off a CPQ process where we create a specific quote through CPQ. Both of these also integrate with marketers, whether it's Pardot or Marketing Cloud. Maybe we have a specific leader contact added to an Engagement Studio campaign or a Marketing Cloud journey based on specific attributes from Next Best Action or Prediction Builder. Kind of the last thing I will show today is kind of the behind the scenes of Prediction Builder. So when you do create a prediction, in our case, we just want to know, are we going to hit our service level agreement response time or not? Every time you create a prediction, it does give you a scorecard, and Einstein is able to tell you, do you have a good prediction model or not? And if you don't, well, why not? What types of things is it missing to be able to produce a good model to forecast whether things are going to happen or not? So in this case, we can view our scorecard. And just a simple example, we have our model score is 76, which is on a scale of 1 to 100, which is good. You generally want to be in the 70 to 90 range. It's interesting that the closer you get to 100, Einstein says, well, I think something might be wrong because your model is almost too perfect. So in that case, you can actually spend some time thinking about, what are some of the other predictors or factors you want Einstein to consider. It does give us the top predictors for our specific use case. In this case, it looks like if the type is electronic, that has a very high impact on the closing of cases in due time, along with the priority being high, which is one thing we talked about earlier. It also says mechanical and electrical cases have an impact on whether or not cases will close. And if we click view all predictors, for the statistics enthusiasts in the room, you get not only what is the impact of those different fields, but also the correlation in terms of the impact that it has on the score of our service level agreement time. So I know I kind of just went through a lot. It can be a lot for people to digest. So I'll go ahead and ask Jorge, do we have any questions from our audience today?
Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate it. That was really cool. So one question that I have here, and just as a reminder, folks, if you input your questions in the question section or the chat section, I'll be able to read them if you have any. First question, Chris, is what is the difference between Next Best Action and Strategy Builder?
You asked about the difference between Next Best Action and Strategy Builder. Is that what I heard?
That's right.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting question. So Strategy Builder is actually one of the tools that feeds into Next Best Action. It's kind of where the rubber meets the road when you're configuring your recommendations for Einstein. So Strategy Builder is the tool that you would use to help Einstein know which recommendation to give at any given time.
All right, thank you. And just related to that question, is there a limit to the number of actions in Next Best Action?
That's a great question. There is no limit, so you can have Einstein recommend as many actions as you want, kind of as your business rules dictate. And one of my favorite things, as I mentioned about Next Best Action and Prediction Builder, is that these are available in every org that's out there now. So in terms of limits, there's really no limit to your org to how many different types of recommendations you want to have. It's really just only limited by your business rules and your imagination.
Excellent. One more question. This is more general, but the question is, what have you seen in terms of improvement in resolution time and client experience with Einstein?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let me see here. I think the best use case I've seen was a project not too long ago where they were new to Einstein, and they started with Next Best Action for their customer service reps. It was a very simple, I think it was only 3 or 4 different recommendations based on different attributes of the cases that they were working. After regrouping with them in the first, 6 months or so of using Next Best Action, they had indicated that their first response resolution percentage went up by nearly 50%. So calls that were answered on the first try with the exact information that they need went up nearly 50%. So I think that's probably the best anecdote I can give in terms of process improvements, but there's definitely a lot of value to be had there.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's it as far as questions go. But thanks, Chris, for taking the time to showcase that technology and for answering these questions. So before we leave you guys, the call to action that we have here, we have a product, and there's a handout in the handout section here in the webinar called Einstein Jolt, and it's a fast start implementation of this technology. We're offering a 25% reduction in our pricing if a contract's executed by September 30th, 2020. So as you think about this, feel free to contact me. My business card is also in the handout section. My email address is up here, but you also get access to my phone number. Anything that you have questions about that you saw today, or if your organization is thinking about how to leverage process or technology to improve customer experience, feel free to reach out to me. We'll also have, this is the second installment in our webinar series. We'll have our third installment in September 2020. The exact date and time is to be determined, but we will for sure let you know when we come up with that information so that you can join us for next time.
Great. I'd like to thank our presenters for showing us the wonderful world of Einstein and how it can bring your service department to the next level. Many thanks to all of our attendees. We really enjoyed spending the time with you this afternoon, and hopefully you will be able to join us in September for our next webinar, as Jorge mentioned. And finally, please do complete the survey upon exiting this meeting. If we can get some feedback on how we did today and some insight into what you might want to learn about in the future for future sessions, that would be really helpful. On behalf of Jolt Consulting Group, I wish you a pleasant afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you in September. Thank you very much and have a good day.